Hello, my name is Mariana, and today this is a reading for Cancer. So Cancer, as usual, I'm doing a reading with my own tarot deck, so the cards that you see are from this deck. Um, so Cancer, it seems like you are in a foreign land, in a uncharted territory, very removed from where you feel comfortable, from where you feel familiar. Um, and it's like this journey, in a sense, to go back home, to go back to where you feel like you are welcomed, like you are protected. And it seems like this path of, going back home, in a sense, and this could be just, in general, right? As, this big metaphor for life, right? Um, as in, like, we're not from here, we're just experiencing this earth lifetime for knowledge and wisdom, and maybe healing, especially because the star card is ending this part of the reading. But it starts with the devil, right? It starts with the devil and it ends with the star. So in a sense there's hope, and I feel like, to be honest, Cancer, your message today feels like this journey to go back to somebody that you love, or to go back to where you feel loved. You know what I mean? So, as I said, we're beginning with the devil. Straight away, when I saw this devil card, I thought about Capricorn. Capricorn being your opposite sign. So that's the reason why I'm sensing this as a foreign land, right? It's like, because in astrology, when we talk about opposite signs, the opposite sign of, Cancer is Capricorn. So it's like the other extreme, right? It's like where you feel uh, maybe estranged, or just far away from your nature, right? And this is what this devil is presenting here as like this very uncharted territory, that maybe there is pressure, because I often see, this middle part here as a crossroads between two paths. And I can't remember exactly which reading it was that the devil was coming through as like one path that, got broken or got separated, or, untethered. And the only way to see this as one thing is like this treacherous, very delicate path. But to be honest, for you, Cancer, today, I'm not seeing it that way. I'm actually seeing it as two paths, because although they are very similar, right? And to be honest, there isn't a big difference. The Six of Cups coming next is just talking about if you take, right or left, both of them are going to feel familiar. Because the message here, I feel like, Cancer, is that it really doesn't matter which one you choose. It's not a matter of choosing, it's a matter of it's like facing the devil, right? It's like the journey back home, out of this uncharted territory, is perhaps to make the uncharted territory also familiar. You know what I mean? It's almost like, the way that I'm seeing this, it's like you left home, you left the Cancerian nature, right? And you went to the opposite sign, to the Capricorn part of your chart, in a sense, right? To a very foreign land, to uncharted territory. And there is this longing to go back home. But it's like because you went so far off from your home, it's like the way back, right? It's like, because I'm seeing this as like, home is here, right? And you're here, right? It's like you have already traveled down, either one side or the other. So whichever one you take back home, it's like they are going to feel familiar, because you've seen the uncharted territory. It's like, to get to where you are, it's like you had to remove yourself from where you find comfort, security, familiarity, right? And with the King of Cups coming next, I feel like this longing to go back home has to do with a particular somebody that makes you feel like, you know, when somebody makes you feel like home, it's like they are home, right? It's like, and you know, there's also that saying, right? Home is where the heart is. It's a bit like that, but this feels like a person, right? Because it's the King of Cups. So whether this is the place that, you know, you feel most at home in, or the person that, you know, you're with, and perhaps again it's like maybe you're missing them. Maybe this is a person that, you know, when you think about, you know, when you were with them, it's like they always made you feel loved and just comfortable and welcomed and, you know, protected and loved. So there is this longing here with the Six of Cups to go back home, and it's like to turn this, you know, to face the devil and turn this uncharted territory into a familiar landscape, right? By traveling down this path, by going down this, you know, either one of these routes, and finding that they're both, it's like they're both filled with this, it's not that they're necessarily filled with love. It's like you going down those paths you are going to feel that path with love. You see what I mean? It's like maybe your hope to find this one, maybe your hope, you know, to keep this, to keep this desire to meet this one again alive is what is, you know, bringing love to this path that could be seen as a very foreign land, right? But I feel like this one, although the longing for them or the longing to meet them could have been something that, you know, kept your hopes alive, I feel like with the Ten of Swords, it's almost like it's trickier, right? It's like the longing, the missing of this person, the missing of, you know, your home, or, you know, where you feel loved, is making this path trickier. Because the Ten of Swords, well, the tens are a shared path to me. And being the Ten of Swords, this is coming through as the traditional Ten of Swords, right? Because I feel like actually it's a blend of the Ten of Swords with the Ten of Wands. And actually we do have the Nine of Wands. And so I feel like this longing actually is weighing you down. It's just making this more difficult than it needs to be. Or it's like, it's just, maybe you're, I'm seeing you carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders because of this one, which is very interesting. It should fill you with hope, right? You know, the hope to see them again, but actually is becoming way down, right? It's like it's becoming something that is like it's becoming tricky, right? It's becoming tricky to navigate this, because instead of you taking this love, right? It's like, because you have, if you are in the position that you are today, and you know, if you are resonating with this message, it seems like you have already traveled a great deal of this uncharted territory. But for some reason, you are at a crossroads right now that you are, it's like this longing is too overbearing, right? It's like it's too much. Maybe it's overwhelming, right? Maybe this is just talking about like, you know, carrying this longing is too overbearing. It's like it's too much to do this, because it's like it's not actually serving the purpose of, you know, making this more familiar, or making this more welcome, or more loving, right? Filling this path with love. It's not being filled because of the longing. Because, well, maybe it's because, you know, when you long to get somewhere, to be with somebody, to just for something that is not in your life, it's like you're acknowledging instead the lack. You see what I mean? And this is how I'm seeing the Ten of Swords. It's like the more that you go back, right? Trying to go back home, trying to find this place where you feel at home. It's like you're acknowledging the lack. And I feel like here for you to really, in a sense, overcome this and find your way back home, because remember, the star is ending this part of your message today, Cancer, and it's talking about this guiding light. So I feel like the more that you see really what's ahead of you, that is this, it feels like a long way back home, right? It feels like a very far into distance type of journey, right? It's like you cannot see the end. It's like it's very tricky, it's very laborious, it's very overwhelming, it's very weighted. It's like, you know, it's not an easy path, right? And it's like the more that you continue on with this longing, it feels like you are, it's like maybe you're losing hope. But that's the thing, it's like the thing about the last row here, because there are only nines and the star, the 9 of Pentacles and the 9 of Wands, I feel like the guide here, the guidance here that is coming from the star, it's actually not to lose hope, but rather drop the lack, right? It's like, I feel like, to be honest, it's like you are, whichever way you go, it's just a matter of going, because you are going to feel this path back home with love if you keep your hopes high. But if you keep on acknowledging that this one is not with you, that, you know, you are not loved, that you are not maybe deserving of love, that's why you left, you know, all sorts of, you know, devilish, tricky, negative thoughts, right? And maybe this is talking about self-sabotage, right? It's like maybe you left home maybe because you thought that you didn't deserve all of that love. I don't know. It's like it's very tricky, right? But you are now navigating a tricky situation because there is this desire to go back home to feel loved, but the way to go is not through lack, is not through carrying the absence, right? You see, the 10 of Swords is like carrying the absence of the King of Cups. But if you remember this King of Cups with hope, right? It's like it's interesting because the star also came through yesterday for Gemini, and it was talking about this wish upon a star that was, you know, made a long time ago, but it's, you know, just making its way to Gemini. And I feel like for you, Cancer, this is like the guidance is keep wishing upon a star, keep looking at the star for guidance, keep it's like keep your hopes high, but do it without the lack, because the lack is just slowing you down or making you confused or overwhelmed, or, you know, carrying the absence of somebody that is not, it's not adding to anything that you're trying to do to go back to them, right? It's just stalling you. It's just making you long for their presence even more, because really what you're doing is acknowledging what you don't have. So the 9 of Pentacles and the 9 of Wands, the 9 of Wands is also coming through a little bit as the traditional 9 of Wands, but actually, because, you know, to me, the 9 of Wands as the 10 of Wands, actually, you know, as this one was showing up a little bit, they can be, you know, rectified in a sense, or re-seen as a path of flowers, because of, you know, all of these seeds that can bloom and become, you know, a beautiful path. But it has to be, it's like the 9 of Pentacles is talking about the first step forward, which is interesting because to me, usually I see those steps forwards with the 2s, but actually this is just talking about the path itself, right? It's like, because again, it's like, it's not a matter of choosing right or wrong, right? There is no right or wrong here. If you keep your hopes high, Cancer, then you are going to bring the love to either one of these paths, right? But if you continue acknowledging what you don't have, then yes, it's going to be extremely tricky, I want to say, and burdensome, right? But if you choose to face the devil and acknowledge that you have been, in this lack zone, let's call it that way, which is interesting because it's like, this should be the shared path, but it's not materialized. So it's just, emphasizing the lack, the absence, the fact that you're not where you wish to be, or where you don't have the company or the presence of this King of Cups, who, in your heart, in your memories, perhaps, it's like, they made you feel welcome, they made you feel at home, they made you feel loved. So by acknowledging that they're not there, it's like you're just making this path even, longer, right? And you don't want to do that, because it's what I'm picking up with this, it's like it's hard enough already. And I know this is not the most hopeful, but actually it's like I want to say you have been, elongating this path because of the lack, right? Because perhaps of the longing. And the moment that you tackle this, right, with determination, with perhaps, focusing in your work and the work that you have to do to actually go back, right? Or to it's like put the work in, right, by yourself. It's like remove the absence of who's not there, focus on who's there, which feels like yourself, right? It's like, it's not talking about like, seeing the burden of like you being by yourself, or admitting that you are feeling lonely. It's almost like that is going to strengthen you and actually give you even more hope, because it's like the fact that you're not shying away, you're not looking the other side, right? It's like you're acknowledging. It's like that's the thing, because you're facing the devil, right? Facing the devil, it's almost like admitting that for you to get to where you want to go, it's like you have to be by yourself in a sense, right? And be proud, or not be proud, but what is the word to better describe it? It's like take ownership, right? Take ownership of where you are by yourself, instead of, always trying to see maybe a way around the devil, right? It's like the way to turn this uncharted territory into a familiar, maybe loving landscape, is to face it with the acknowledgement that yes, you can do this by yourself, right? And that is what is going to, reignite the hopes, right? It's like this is the guidance. It's like for you to heal in a sense. Maybe that's the thing, right? Maybe we are talking about a specific relationship that, maybe was long lost, right? And you are in a sense beating yourself up with the 10 of Swords, thinking that it's like you were the one who got yourself, strayed away from them, or whatever it is. Maybe there is guilt, right? It's like the sensation that I'm having, but I feel like this wasn't conscious until now, because I feel like you were in a sense carrying them with you, carrying the lack of them with you, and doing so in a way that you thought was right, but losing hope, right? The more you progressed, it's like you were losing hope. And here, it's like hope wants to be with you. And it's interesting because the Star card also, in one of the fairly recent readings, it was talking about luck, right? So it's not only that hope is on your side, but it's like in this path where you acknowledge that you are by yourself, and it's like you are carrying what is yours and not what is not there. You see what I mean? It's like, it's almost like that's really interesting. What I'm seeing right now, it's like you were carrying this backpack on your shoulders, but the absence, the lack was actually weighing you down and slowing you, right? On this path. So that's the reason why it's almost like an empty space that was just becoming very heavy, which is so interesting because the moment that you acknowledge that it's like you let go, right? It's like this, the lack evaporating. And that is the ownership that you are, taking right now of where you are, acknowledging where you are. And I want to say alone in your path, right? But building something very constructive out of the challenges. And that is how you bring the beauty. That is how you, it's like permeate this path back home with love, right? Because it's love and hope and healing all mixed together, right? It's like one feeding the other in a sense. And so the challenge becomes the beauty, or becomes this this path of flowers, right? That you weren't seeing once. It's like when you entered the situation, or when you left home, or when you left this relationship, or when you left this King of Cups, and you entered like a very foreign, very strange territory, and now you want to go back home, but you are feeling like, you've created like such a huge distance that is really tricky to go back home. It's like, keep your hopes high, because it's like there is this guiding light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not at the end of the tunnel really. It's like throughout the entire path, because now I'm seeing these wands as like torches, right? So the more that you acknowledge this lonely path, or this solitude, right, that you're in, but you are not, in the hermit phase of, staying. It's like you are going, right? It's like you're walking the path by yourself, keeping your hopes high, because you know that it's almost like going back, home, but doing so with this inner strength, and letting go of this extra weight that was the empty space. Really, it's like you're actually healing, right? It's like following this guidance, it's actually healing, right? It's like removing the lack, removing the empty feeling of not having the one that you want, or the one that you love by your side, right? And actually strengthening your path, right? It's like fertilizing your uniqueness, which is very interesting, but fertilizing also your individuality here, right? And how you can, travel down these tricky paths back home, and stop creating like an extra mile for you to walk down, or like create extra overbearing, overwhelming path for you, right? So there is hope, and I feel like you are going down that path, right? It's like, but you have to be with yourself, right? And it's not stagnant, right? The nines are talking about this, yes, solitary path, but one that you are on the move, right? And that's actually what I feel like it's going to take you to where you want to be, really, to where you really, really, really wish to be, right? So Cancer, I am going to pull more cards for you. Also, I'm going to pull from the astrological runes in the extended reading. So if you want to join me there, I'll be very happy to see you. You can find the link down below. If not, I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.